Let's talk about the very best decks to climb in November.
Hey, buddy, watch this.
As always in this video, I'm going to have 6 decks here, not just the highest win rate ones, but decks that align along certain preferences in Hearthstone, like the fastest, control decks, OTK, sleeper decks, and even a budget deck. But first, we are going to start with the highest win rate deck right now, according to HS Replay, which is Secret Highlander Paladin. Since the return of Mysterious Challenger, that's really made a faster style Paladin like this one make a lot of sense. Zephrys is still there, Sir Finley of the Sands for the Highlander power spike possibilities. But now you can actually run a lot of secrets in your deck to empower things like those early secret keepers and just give you a fast start without totally ruining the late game consistency of your deck or your late game draws, because Mysterious Challenger is now there to pull those out of your deck for really powerful mid game turn. You've also just got more good minions at the top of your curve with Ragnaros and Sylvanas, and of course Tyrion Fordring still sticking around. So not only can you have a fast start, but you can have a really strong finish with those big boys later in the game. And then Zephrys just wins games sometimes. He just outright steals games. So a fast deck, a strong deck, really good win rate on this one. It's a reliable choice at the moment. Kind of expensive in some ways to craft if you don't have some of these pieces laying around. But with the freebies like Rag and Sylvanas and Challenger, you can get pretty close to this deck list and get it working without too much Arcane Dust commitment. If you're looking for a fast climb right now, I recommend Combo Priest. Not only a deck with a reasonably good win rate, it's also fantastic against Shaman right now, and it wins games quick. And sometimes it can just steal games right out from under your opponent. You hit one of those double Divine Spirit Inner Fire turns, and you just kill them with like a 40-40 minion. That tends to end games rather fast. The other thing about Combo Priest is it doesn't always have a lot of playback potential. If your opponent stabilizes a bunch of big taunts or something or an Azoth, it's not like the game's going to go long. You're never going to be able to get there. So you can concede out with this deck sometimes when the writing is on the wall. Don't give up too soon because, Blansamdi into Amet can do ridiculous things, but there will still be games where you don't have a chance. And unlike a long control deck, you don't have to play those out. You can just get out, re-queue, try to hit those crazy early game boards. But between beating Shaman pretty consistently and those really fast starts, this is a great deck if you don't have a lot of time but still want to climb. So when it comes to a control deck to climb with right now, we're going right back to Priest, but the other variety, the Resurrect Priest, which features all kinds of late game shenanigans within the Zoth, double Mass Resurrection, Katrina Muertes. You can get some Vargoth Mass Res stuff going on for lots and lots of super defensive board reloads, tons of healing, lots of late game stabilization. This deck can do ridiculous things when you give it time, making it a great control deck. Now, this is not really the best control versus control deck. This deck can certainly get outvalued and lose to other decks that are making way more N'Zoths. Think like N'Zoth Rogue, for instance. But this is the most consistent, the highest win rate against the field. So although it's not like the ultimate super value control deck, it's still the best control deck that's going to win you the most games. And that's why it's my recommendation. So moving on now to the OTK deck I'd like to recommend. It's still Quest Malygos Druid this time around. And in fact, this is the deck I played to Legend this month. My list was a little bit different than the more popular one featured here, but I think this deck does some great things against the meta. It's great against all those crazy N'Zoth decks out there, but also can actually beat a couple of different Shaman decks. It still has trouble sometimes with those Desert Hare evolved turns in the mid game, but can actually go long against things like Battlecry Shaman and eventually just find the win. If a deck's not going above 30 health, this deck will eventually create a scenario where they can kill them with some Malygos Moonfire shenanigans, usually with Phlebinus Floop or various other discounts and copies, thanks to Elise that create, upwards of 60 plus damage in some instances. So this one is a very consistent deck right now. Lots of survivability. Great that it has a defined end game win condition. I had a lot of fun climbing with this, and it's a great deck across the board right now. So if you like OTK, you can't get any better than this. So now moving on to my sleeper deck. I never thought I'd say this, but Murloc Paladin is actually my sleeper choice right now. And a couple months ago, Murloc Paladin was like the best deck in the meta. If you look maybe 2 videos back in the series, I think this was our highest win rate deck. pulling off these prismatic lens, tip the scales shenanigans for ridiculous mid-game Murloc boards. The thing is, Murloc Paladin's still a really good deck if you look at its win rates, but it lost a lot of popularity. It fell out of fashion to other Paladin decks, but also in the Doom and the Tomb Wild event with all these other cards coming back, things just shifted around. So despite Murloc Paladin still having a great win rate, nobody's really playing it. The played rate on this deck is absurdly low, and it's different than other popular varieties of Paladin as well. So you can't actually use this to catch people off guard. Maybe they're not mulliganing for those big turn 4s, right? They're thinking more about like mysterious challengers and Tyrians later in the game. So yeah, believe it or not, Murloc Paladin, the sleeper deck. It's unimaginable, but given its low popularity and its high win rate, it certainly fits the description. So now on to the budget deck, and I think this is a super cool budget deck. Like maybe the coolest budget deck I've ever seen. It's N'Zoth Rogue. And despite the fact that it has a couple legendaries, this deck comes in under 1,000 arcane dust. Now, Sylvanas and N'Zoth, you don't have to craft those. Right now, they're free for the next month as a part of the Doom and the Tomb event. You just automatically get them, which means all you have to craft in this deck are 5 rares and a bunch of common cards, and then you've, of course, got some basic cards in there as well. So, under 1,000 dust for a highly competitive, super fun, control-style deck. Does have some tempo pieces too, of course. Maybe you'd call this mid-range in some worlds, but I think with N'Zoth and lots of Togwaggle schemes, it does end up feeling like a control deck at some point. So super fun, really unique spin on Rogue, fantastic deck. This cheap, you don't see that in Hearthstone much. If you're on a budget, go play this deck. You won't regret it. It's about as fun and, you know, a good deck too. So this is the best option I've seen, maybe ever, for a budget deck. So there you go, folks. Those are the best decks to climb in November. I know this is a day early. That's because BlizzCon is coming. But if you manage to find any time to play Hearthstone on the ladder, I think each of these decks will provide some great opportunities and some great fun for you, as long as you don't hit too many shamans out there. That said, if you have some own deck recommendations of your own, please feel free to share those in the comments below. But until then, thanks much for watching, and until next time, game on.